Welcome back to Homes with Joan. Today we're going to be talking about what's happening in this crazy real estate market, along with what it takes to get a home through a lender and all the information that a lender actually will help us provide, as they're a very big part of our team when we're moving down that path towards home ownership. So I have a friend today with me. Who is in the lending industry, has been in it for several years. We're not going to say how many, but it's just great to have Kris on board with us today to talk about all the ins and outs about what it takes to purchase a home in today's real estate market. So Kris, what can you tell me about yourself?
Well, thanks for asking me, Joan, and thanks for having me here. Hopefully I can provide you and your clients some valuable information in regards to the lending process, what it takes to get a mortgage, and some of the best options available for mortgages. I have been in the lending business for many years. I'm not going to say how many, but for quite a few years, and I've enjoyed helping people pinpoint their financial goals and identify appropriate and affordable financing solutions. I listen to both their needs and I try to advise them as to what they should do in regards to picking a mortgage solution. I have an extensive background in helping all types of borrowers, first-time home buyers, move-up buyers, people downsizing, investment properties, second homes, and I help them both with purchasing and refinancing.
Sure. That is so important to have someone who's had that wide range of experience with all different types of buyers. I know when people come to me, their very first question is, what do I do first? And that very first thing that I say is, well, do you have a lender? Because, of course, we all know that it takes some money to purchase their home. So there's different options as it comes into purchasing that home. So can you tell me a little bit about the difference between what a mortgage broker is and a bank?
Well, a mortgage broker basically is someone who will originate your loan, and they're going to shop that loan to various lenders. Mm-hmm. And those lenders will close and fund your loan. A mortgage bank is going to usually underwrite, process, all that, and close loans with their own money. Okay? So we're not a bank. Our company is not a bank, and we're not a broker. Mm-hmm. We're just a mortgage company. So we're not going to try to sell you checking and savings accounts and credit cards. What we're going to do is we're going to take your loan application, we're going to process it, we're going to underwrite it, we're going to get it clear to close, we're going to fund it, and in most cases we're going to service your loan. So if there's ever an issue with your loan, or if you have questions, you can pick up the phone and give me a call, and I should be able to answer those questions for you. We're not a one-time Charlie type guy. We're trying to build customers for life. So that's our goal.
And that's the biggest thing, is you want to have someone that you have that relationship with. Banks, and lots of times,
banks are too big.
Yeah, well, but they're also, what they have, their restrictions and their requirements are very different than a mortgage broker, who has the flexibility of working with different investors. As you said, you look and you ask them what it is they're looking for, and you have that flexibility to make that loan a little bit better for them, depending on their
exactly
personal situation.
Exactly. We have numerous products, and
sure.
The big banks are more conservative in most cases.
Yeah.
They're going to have what they call overlaps, and even the guidelines set by Fannie and Freddie, they may be less strict, and banks may have some extra add-ons. Right, because they're conservative.
Sure.
And they make money other ways.
Absolutely.
Right?
Right, exactly. So what would be, if you were a purchaser and you were going to call you, what would the number one question be that they should ask you?
Well, what programs you have available, and what might be the best solution for them. A lot of people, different situations. Some people want to do everything online.
Sure.
Some people want to meet face to face.
Sure.
Others, all they care about is interest rates. And then you have people that need to close within 20 days.
Sure.
So you're not going to go find someone to close your loan within 20 days unless you're absolutely assured that they can do that.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of different things, but I would say what programs are available and what options might be best for me.
Sure. And so that is just basically trying to get the information to you. So to be pre-approved, and I want to make sure that when we talk about pre-approval, that doesn't mean qualified.
Correct.
That means that you are pre-approved because you have met certain standards that your lender is trying to make sure that you get that pre-approval. So lots of times real estate agents will say, well, where's your pre-approval from? So what does it take to get a pre-approval?
Well, to get a pre-approval, you really need to be, you really need to have all your documentation, and you need to take a complete loan application. So basically what we need to know is where you've lived and where you've worked for the last 2 years. We're going to ask you for your social security number and your date of birth because we're going to pull your credit. We're going to input this information and we're going to run it through an automated underwriting system, and that will give us the pre-approval. The actual documentation that you need, so I would say driver's license, 30 days of the most recent pay stubs, the last 2 years of your W-2s, the last 2 years of your federal tax returns, and the 2 most recent months of your bank statements or asset statements. Wherever the money is coming from for your down payment and closing costs, we need to see those statements. And the reason we need 2 months is we're looking for large deposits. We don't want to see somebody took a $15,000 advance on their credit card and put it in their bank account. So we're looking for anything over your normal pay. 25% would be considered a large deposit.
Okay. And so you gather all that information from you. I'm timely in that because, of course, I need that pre-approval letter to be able to go in with an offer on a house. How long does it normally take from the time you get all that documentation until I can actually have that pre-approval letter to be able to give to my realtor?
It really shouldn't take much longer than an hour to input the application. And, you have to verify the documentation. That's the key. Garbage in is garbage out. So if you have the information and you can verify that information, it shouldn't take more than an hour to input the loan into the origination system that you have and to run it through the automated underwriting system. The automated underwriting system is going to tell you exactly what you need from the borrower.
Okay.
So, it might say pay stubs, it might say W-2s, it might say you need federal tax returns, but in some cases you're not going to need that.
Okay. Well, the information has been just incredible because that pre-approval letter is one of the biggest things, and I think...
Oh, I wouldn't put somebody in my car if I was a realtor if they didn't have a pre-approval letter. That's my personal opinion.
So we're going to continue this conversation in our next segment, and we're going to get down into some little bit more details than we have during this session. So stay tuned.
Every year, distracted drivers are responsible for nearly 2.5 million car crashes. The National Safety Council reports cell phone use while driving leads to 1.6 million crashes. The NSC reports 1 out of every 4 car accidents in the United States is caused by texting and driving. Texting or reading text takes your eyes off the road for at least 5 seconds.
How you doing, man?
So if you were traveling at 55 miles per hour, you're essentially driving the length of an entire football field blindfolded. Once a driver has been distracted, it takes only 3 seconds for a car crash to occur.
So here we go again. We're going to get more into detail about actually what it takes for that home mortgage, that home lender that will give you the right answers for what you're looking for, because it's really all about you. We're just kind of here to help.
Absolutely.
And what that is. So we were talking about pre-approval and what it takes and how long it takes. So the very first thing you do when you get that pre-approval, I as a realtor am in contact with the lender. I just feel it's a good way to communicate with one another.
Absolutely.
Just to have that open conversation about, hey, Joan, we are good to go, and you know, you have nothing to worry about with these folks. And then I feel really comfortable about taking them down that road.
I make that call, and I advise, hey, I have the pay stubs, I have the W-2s, we have money to close for down payment, closing costs. We also have run it through the automated underwriting system, and we did get an approval, whether it's conventional, FHA, VA, whatever it is, we have an approval. So you're good to put them in your car and go shopping.
All right. Well, and believe me, in these days, we're looking a lot because it's a quick market. If it's something you like, you want to make sure that you have that documentation that's
absolutely
strong and that I can stand behind as well for our clients. So you talked about down payment. Another thing that lots of times the clients are wondering when I say, well, what's your earnest money deposit? I want to make sure we understand there's a difference between your earnest money deposit and what you need for a down payment. You want to explain those two a little bit?
Well, earnest money is basically a good faith deposit that you're going to give to your realtor, and they in turn present that with your offer, okay? And it's usually 1 to 5% of the purchase price, and that if you give a higher earnest money deposit, you're probably going to be considered maybe a better potential buyer, especially when there's numerous offers.
Sure.
And then that money, even though it's part of your down payment, it does get credited when it's time to close. So you don't, if you're putting 20% down, you don't have to give 20% earnest money deposit.
Okay.
I'm saying 1 to 5%.
Sure.
Of the sales price is a decent earnest money
I
deposit.
normally ask for, depending on the client, I usually ask for that 1 to 2%, just because, like it is, it's like you said, it's putting skin in the game. It means that I really want this house.
Absolutely.
And I'm ready to move forward with it, and I do have some, funding to move forward with that. So during, so you've talked about this underwriter. An underwriter is kind of like a title company. Like, they're all a part of our deal, but we never see them. We don't know who the underwriter is. You want to say, hi, underwriter Kris, how you doing today? But there is no person, in a sense, because it's a matter of a lot of different information, correct? Can you explain a little bit what an underwriter is?
Well, I can. In our case, we have direct contact with our underwriters. So if there's an issue with documentation, or I see something one way and the underwriter sees it another way, we can have that open discussion about what do we really need to meet this condition. Okay. And I've talked about automated underwriting. And the automated underwriting system basically is just a search. It's an engine that reviews all the information that you input, and gives you an idea of what exactly the documentation is.
Okay, so it matches
Okay.
it all up together.
Right.
And then it spews out, these folks would be qualified for this amount of money because of all the information that we've received to date.
Correct.
So that's a really important piece to make sure, once again, that you are thinking about this before you're going to a lender. So hopefully these seeds are getting planted in your mind. If you're starting to look towards purchasing a home, that you're thinking about making sure I'm saving money. I know credit report is a really another big thing as you're in the midst of purchasing a home. So what's a good credit report? What do I have to do to help my credit? What are your recommendations?
Credit is very important.
Yeah.
The better credit, the better rate you're going to get.
Okay.
And the agencies, Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, have what's called loan level pricing adjustments. And based on your credit score and how much money you're putting down, it's going to cost you more money to obtain that loan with a lower credit score and less down payment. So, and there's kind of tiers. 740 and above is considered exceptional. 680 to 740 is good. 620 to 620 to 680 is fair, and below 620, you have some work to do.
Okay.
Okay, so those are the ranges. If you're so you're going to get better pricing at 700 than you are at 698.
Okay.
Is there a way to get you from 698 to 700? Absolutely. And those are the kind of things that I discuss with my clients and say, okay, hey, maybe if we pay this credit card down a little bit, you can reach that 700 score.
Okay.
So,
Well, so then it's really important that today, if you're thinking about purchasing that home, that you're working on your credit and making sure that your credit is in good standing order and that you don't make any huge purchases at this point.
no, especially when the process is started. Don't go out and buy a car, furniture,
Yeah.
washer and dryer, all that stuff. The credit reporting agency reports to us until you close.
Okay.
So if I see something from Home Depot, Best Buy, something like that,
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go ask you what you did.
Sure.
And if you bought something and there's a payment, now all of a sudden you could go from a qualified buyer to a non-qualified buyer.
Okay, so that's a really important piece as well, to make sure that you're maintaining that good record. As well as, I know there's a few out-of-cost expenses before you actually get to the qualifying, getting to that closing table. So we already talked about your earnest money deposit. That's money that you've had in your bank and now you've given to your realtor as a part of the down payment. And then the next out-of-pocket expense is really the appraiser, right? The appraisal, the bank
Correct.
does an appraisal to make sure the value of that home
Correct.
is where it has to be. And there's a cost to that appraiser that you take on prior to.
So, yeah, there's closing costs.
Right.
And closing costs are appraisal, credit report, title insurance fee, closing fee, establishing your escrows and your prepaid information. So the appraisal fee and the credit report fee is what we collect up front.
Okay.
All the other fees can usually be paid at closing.
Okay.
Okay? So about $550 up front.
Okay.
Yeah, and closing costs, closing costs are going to run $2,500 to $3,000 ballpark.
Okay.
And when you're talking about prepaids and establishing your escrow account, about 12 months of whatever taxes and insurance are,
You'll need
or
in there as well.
you're going to need that as well.
So these are some really great, continuing with our great information on what you need to be doing today to be thinking about that purchase. In the next segment, we'll be talking further in regards to how much money it takes to put down and different opportunities that may come into play with what you're looking for. Well, welcome back. This is our final segment on home lending, and I hope you're learning a lot from what our conversation has been so far. So we have a lot of folks out there who look to us to answer their crystal ball questions. So what's happening in the market today? Kris actually has an amazing video that comes out weekly called Current Matters, or
Markets in a Minute. Markets in a Minute, yeah.
And it'll tell you everything that's happening today in the market. And I think to stay on top of that is really, something you'll want to make sure you're doing in this process of purchasing a home. So getting back down into some of the details, Kris, what does it mean for, like, I have some business owners that are looking to purchase their home, and so they're considered self-employed. Is there anything different that they need to do to get a mortgage?
Well, other than the standard documentation, which we talked about earlier, self-employed borrowers need to provide either their schedules, if they're just a Schedule C or Schedule E borrower, and if they own a business or a corporation, their 1120Ss and their 1065s, along with their K1s. In most cases, self-employed borrowers have to be in their business for at least 2 years.
Okay.
We're trying to get some sort of feeling as to whether the business is viable, correct.
Yeah, where they're at with that.
And the other thing is, depending on when you file your taxes, we may ask for a profit and loss statement. It doesn't have to be audited, but it has to give us some idea
What your profit is.
if you're making money currently.
Sure.
During the COVID recession, we had to ask for bank statements just to make sure that we were seeing the money going into your accounts, but they've done away with that consideration. So self-employed borrowers can buy a house.
Okay.
It's a little bit more difficult. We actually have a system called Income Genius where we just put your paperwork in and it spits out an income based on your deductions and everything else. I mean, can I figure it out? Yes. Will it take me a lot longer?
Sure.
But the Income Genius is what our underwriters will use for your actual income. So it's, and that takes about 24 hours.
Okay.
So it's not I can't turn it around in an hour for you if you're self-employed.
And we missed this also between a bank and a lender. Remember that a lender is usually there on Saturdays?
Oh, yeah.
Sundays?
Absolutely.
We don't really get that day off type thing. We do, don't get us wrong. But
one of the best parts about my job is the free time that you do have.
Yeah.
You can kind of set your own schedule, but you always have your cell phone with you, and you're always looking for the next deal or the next prospect. So you're going to answer the phone.
Yeah.
So
for sure, and that's never been an issue for me with you, Kris, so
No.
I appreciate all that time. The other thing is that with some of those folks who may not have that 20% down, what am I going to do? I don't have 20% down, I can't buy a house. What would you tell someone that would say that to you?
Well, you don't need 20% down to buy a house, first of all.
Okay.
If you're a veteran, you don't have to put anything down. Conventional financing offers as little as 3%. FHA, 3.5%. MSHA, you really only have to have 1% of your funds into the transaction. So there's a lot of different programs out there that are available where you don't have to put 20% down.
Depending on your personal circumstance.
Absolutely. And that's, I'm going to listen to you, and we're going to try to figure out, is FHA the best option, or can you go 3% conventional?
Sure.
So, depending on what the overall situation, credit, we'll figure it out for you.
Yeah, well, that's awesome, Kris, because I know that lots of folks are wondering also, what does it look like for 22 with the crystal ball out there? And I'm still feeling, and everything I've been hearing in our industry is it's going to be a strong 22. May not be to the 21 level, but 22 is definitely coming in stronger, and we're still going to be seeing a lot of folks wanting to buy houses this year.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Current market, I would say inventory is low.
Yes.
Okay. There's a lot of offers, right?
Yeah.
One of the things I do is if you're making an offer, I will pick up the phone and call that listing agent and say, hey, my borrower is pre-approved. I have all their documentation. They have enough money. They're seriously interested in purchasing this home from you. So that's one of the things that I do. In regards to interest rates, probably gone up at least 0.5% since the end of December. What does that mean to you? $200,000 loan, about $60. $250,000 loan, about $75 a month.
Okay.
More in payment.
Okay.
What do I see ahead? Probably rates are going to keep creeping up.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're going to get some more inventory out there.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't expect, I would expect that you're still going to have multiple offers on houses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
We're seeing that even with all the way through the winter. We had houses that were for sale. There was really never a slowdown
No.
per se. Holidays, you always get a little bit less because people don't want you in your house when you have your Christmas tree up. But, that definitely is, we also are finding, or I'm finding, people who are anxious is now the time. I'm afraid to purchase during this boom or this whatever. What would you say to someone who's anxious about purchasing a home in today's market?
the time to buy is when you're ready to buy.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's really no right or wrong answer. I mean, do you want to wait until rates go down? Well, you could, but maybe house prices are going up, so how did you win there?
Yeah.
Did you want to wait until house prices go down, but interest rates went up? How do you win there?
Yeah.
So there's really no right or wrong answer.
Totally agree.
The best answer that I can give you is you buy a home when you're ready to buy a house. Maybe you had a child, you need a bigger home.
Yeah. We have all sorts of different reasons why we're in that. If you're downsizing, all your kids went off to college, and now
Absolutely.
I don't need this big home. I want to go travel a little bit more than I've had the opportunity to do. So I don't need this large home any longer, and it's time to move down. And then also, your family's growing, you're moving up. You have that older parent who isn't safe in their home any longer.
Oh, absolutely.
And they need to find a better living situation that they are. So we know that home buying and selling is a very fearful time in people's lives. It's an emotional time in people's lives. You're offering all this information, and it's very personal, and you feel like, am I going to get approved? We all want to be approved. No one doesn't want to not be approved. So when you work with people who are understanding, who are knowledgeable, who have the education and the services that you are looking for, I say hold on to them and move forward with that. Of course, it's always your call. We work for you. Right, Kris?
Yeah.
And I just really want to thank you today for taking the time out of your busy day to come and help our community understand what the home lending services look like today. And if you ever want to get a hold of Kris, I definitely would make sure that you give him a call. He'll be there, willing, and able to answer any question you may have. His information will be in the video. So, Kris, thank you so very much for coming today.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope I help some people out in making that all-important decision on when is the right time to buy a house.
Thank you, Kris. Take care.
Thank you.
Next time, we'll see you on with Homes with Joan. We're going to be talking about that man behind the curtain, that title company. What do they have to do with purchasing a home?